Okay, we're going to now create a new diagram in the same project that we've been working with. We'll call it LR for logistics, chapter 10 LR. LR for logistics regression. Okay. So now we are going to use the universal bank data set. Okay. Now let's look at the variables and make sure that they're all set properly. So age, CC average, CD account is binary, credit card is binary, education is ordinal, experience, family is ordinal, okay. Income, mortgage, online is binary, personal loan is binary, okay. Securities account, zip code is rejected. So that's good. And we're going to partition the data 60-40. 16, 40, 0. Okay. And then regression. So this is the same regression node that we saw earlier in chapter 6, I believe, when the target was interval. Okay, now the target is binary, so we don't have to change this. We leave it as logistic regression. Okay. If it was interval target, then we have to change this to linear regression. So when it is logistic regression, then we have some choices to make, and that would be, okay, like suppose you want, if you don't make any selections here, then all the X variables, the input variables will be included, and you will get a maximum likelihood estimate for B sub 0. So like for example, if you don't run this as is, then okay, once it's completed, all the variables will be in the regression model. Look at the results. Okay, lots of other results, but here is where you see what's happening. Okay. So intercept and then all the variables. Okay. So you see education was ordinal, so it created 2 dummy variables, leaving out 3. So we have 1, 2, and 3. So 3 is the basis. Okay. Family had 4 values, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 3 dummy variables, and income, mortgage, and the rest of it. Okay. All right. So these are the estimates. Okay, these are our B coefficients, intercept, and then the rest of it. And then when you take e to the power of that, that's given here. So EXP estimate, this is our odds ratio. Okay. And here is the p-values. Okay, so you see there are some p-values which are really large. These are not significant. So if you run a stepwise regression, I think these variables will not find a place in the model. So let's do that. Now, if you change the selection, model selection to stepwise, or the other two, either one, then okay, the default selection criterion is our negative log of the maximum likelihood function, which means it will minimize that value, which is same as saying maximize likelihood function. Okay. But you can change that Okay, you can have validation error. Okay, so that is the likelihood function or negative likelihood function, validation error. Okay, and you can also use, if you don't care about that, but if you want the misclassification to be minimized, you can select that. If you select misclassification, validation misclassification, then validation misclassification is the one that will be used for model building in the stepwise. It won't be, you'll use the maximum likelihood to find estimates, but for selecting variables, it will be based on misclassification rate. Cross validation is, we talked about cross validation way back in chapter 5, if you remember. So it will be, if you have a smaller set of data, then you would divide it into a validation set and a training set, a small validation set and a large training set, and then you will compute the measures in the validation set. But you would repeat that for, say, like every 10% of the data, for example, 10%, let's just pick that up. So you will divide the entire data set into 10% lots. So you take the first 10% and the rest of the 90% as training, you run it. And then you take the second 10% as validation, and then the rest of the 90% as training, and then again run it. So that this way, every observation gets to be in training set as well as in the validation set. And then after that, you find the best. So that's what cross validation means. The profit and loss comes from decision matrix. So you have to have, this doesn't make profit and loss will be the default, by the way. If you set in the for the data source, if you set the decision, where is that? Okay, if you set the decisions, okay, so if you set the decision weights, then profit and loss here is your default. Okay? So now, having selected stepwise, now run the regression. Go all the way down, so you have the estimates right here. Okay. So these are the estimates. So now we don't have age, we don't have experience. Okay. All the p-values are significant. Okay. And here are the odds ratios.